political commentator. Mohammed, first of all, your response to the murder of David Haines.
Well, Dotton, obviously it's a brutal and barbaric and evil crime, and our immediate thoughts are with David's family and friends. What they will be going through, we can't even begin to imagine. But we've got to be very clear that the threat from terrorism is real. We've got to stand united and determined and not give in to these terrorist organizations. And ISIS in Syria and Iraq have no regard for human life, particularly when the majority of their victims are fellow Muslims. So we as Muslims in this country and around the world are shocked by what has happened, and we stand ready to support the British government and other governments to bring the people who've done these evil crimes to justice.
From a Muslim perspective, what do you feel needs to be done to prevent this kind of thing happening again in the name of your religion?
Well, I don't think this is in the name of our religion. I think these people are deluded if they think they represent the Islamic faith. The Islamic faith is a peaceful religion, and they've distorted Islamic teachings to suit their own evil and barbaric crimes. We've got to do whatever we can to support the Iraqi and Kurdish governments to take action on the ground militarily. I think we need to look at military strikes on ISIS through the United Nations. And also, I think what we've got to do is we've got to do whatever we can to support the police and intelligence agencies to make sure that the fighters that come back from Syria, that we identify who they are, and if they are dangerous and a threat to our national security in this country, that we make sure that we work with the police to do that. You know, Muslims, Dotton, are as disgusted by what has happened, not just with David Haines, but with terrorism of the generations. And we stand resolutely with the Prime Minister and the British government to do whatever we can to help them.
I know, because we hear you often speaking to Stephen Nolan, and I'm sure most fair-minded people in Britain know and accept that. But nevertheless, when the person who's apparently carried out this killing is thought to be a British man, that must be a serious concern for all the work you try and do within the community.
Yes, obviously there are people who have been brainwashed into thinking that the way you can deal with the issues of foreign policy, of unjust and illegal wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, or the issue of the oppression of the Palestinians is somehow to go out and to behead people and to use violence and terrorism in this way. That's what we've got to confront. It's an evil ideology. It's a mindset that thinks violence is acceptable. And I think that's what we've got to confront, and that's what we have been doing. Well, you know, if you ask the police and intelligence agencies, a lot of partnership working is happening between the Muslim community and the intelligence and police agencies, and we've got to go the extra step to do that. But most importantly, you know, I think the message is very clear from the vast majority of Muslims in this country. We object to what has happened. We think it's evil and barbaric, and our thoughts and prayers are with the family of David, his friends, and the wider community.
Do you have any scintilla of understanding or even explanation as to why young men from Muslim communities in Britain are prepared to go abroad to carry out evil acts?
No, I mean, I have obviously been brought up in a way to know that Islamic teachings is very clear. You know, prisoners of war in Islamic teaching have rights and responsibilities, and they have the right to be treated fairly with respect and dignity. Well, beheading somebody in the way that we see in the barbaric way is not doing that. And I think also what we've got to do as a country is we've got to have an open and honest debate about the issues without people, you know, hurling abuse at each other by calling us, you know, if we talk about foreign policy, we get accused of, you know, supporting terrorism or trying to excuse it. We've got to make sure that there's a path towards the political process in this country for those sort of voices and those sort of
debates. Is that the reason,
and
then? Is it foreign policy that drives young Muslim men and perhaps even women overseas to carry out these evil acts? Is it the British foreign policy?
No, I think that's a contributing factor, but I think the main reason why people are carrying out these terrorist activities is because they have a mindset in which they think that sort of violence is justified. And that's what we've got to confront. But as part of that process of getting people involved in the political process, giving them a voice, we've got to have those honest and open debates. Often I have that debate with politicians and government ministers and the Prime Minister and other people. And I often say to them, if you don't have that debate, if you don't give young people a voice in the political process in this country, then they will be induced to be brainwashed by these extremists. And, there are a number of extremist preachers that are still present in this country, the Anjem Chaudhrys of the world, where we don't see any action being taken against them. So I really do hope that the government does whatever it can to strengthen that. But I suppose one final word, Dotun, is we've got to be very cautious. We cannot rush in and jump and make decisions based on emotion. We've got to calmly reflect about what's the best way to defeat these terrorists. And I think, whatever the government decides, the Muslim community will stand with the government to bring the people who carry out these evil crimes to justice.
Mohammed, thanks very much. Mohammed Shafiq, the regular contributor to the Stephen Nolan Show here on BBC 5 Live.